got a busy show coming up here on Verts. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Friday. My name is Harrison Graham. Joe Burrow is putting pressure on the Bengals ownership and front office. We got the latest on Matthew Stafford as his wife spoke on her podcast. And are the Detroit Lions recruiting Myles Garrett in a potential trade? Lots to get into here on today's show. Before we do all of that, we're trying to get to 7,000 subscribers here on Verts. I'd love to get there before the Super Bowl. Obviously, 385 between now and Sunday. That's a bit of a climb, but I believe in you guys. If you want daily NFL content, news, rumors for free, we're going to get to some free agency coverage soon, as that is just over a month away. We got you covered. Hit that sub button right now. Okay, so Super Bowl week is not only a week for, the two teams in it. You got a lot of these athletes, these players hanging out in New Orleans promoting something, and, they hop on these shows and they start talking about their own situations. And obviously the Bengals and Joe Burrow had a disappointing season. Not Burrow himself. He was third or fourth in the MVP race, but obviously missed the playoffs. And he's now putting pressure on Cincinnati to bring back some key players that are either eligible for new deals or could be free agents soon. Here's what Burrow had to say on First Take this week. Quote, "We need Trey Hendrickson back. We need to give him what he's worth and what he deserves. The cap is going up. We just got new TV deals. We all want to stay together." He, of course, is talking about not only Hendrickson, but Jamar Chase, who is set to likely reset the wide receiver market and get more money than Justin Jefferson did. Tee Higgins, who is a free agent. Chase technically has his fifth-year option, but I do not think he will play this next year without a new deal. Higgins, you could tag him a second time, but that's pretty unlikely. And then Hendrickson, who has 1 year left but is drastically underpaid based on his production, would also probably hold out like Jamar Chase if he does not get a new deal. Now, if you've paid attention to the Bengals historically and their ownership, etc., this would go against their MO. Paying three big-time players, big-time contracts with large signing bonuses in the same offseason, not something they would normally do. Two is something that they wouldn't normally do. They're typically, they'll do like one at a time, right? Like they got Burrow done. They didn't even do Chase after 3 years. It's like there's no risk here. Why would you not sign Jamar Chase? So this seems hard to believe. And I think Burrow kind of knows. He knows the history. He's like, I got to put pressure on ownership because we're already underachieving as it is. We let guys walk out the door like Jesse Bates and others on that defense, which is why the defense fell apart. I want to keep some of these cornerstone pieces together. And it just did make me start to think and start to wonder, like, let's say they don't bring all these guys back. Maybe they trade Hendrickson. Maybe they let Higgins walk in free agency. I do feel comfortable. Chase will be there. Now, when he signs, how much he gets, that remains to be seen, but he will be there. But if you told me it's more likely that only he is back versus all three being back, I would believe you. Like, again, they just do not hand out multiple massive contracts in the same offseason. So let's say they do let the other two go and another year goes by and they miss the playoffs or they don't have enough to get over the hump. I could see like 2-3 years go by, Joe Burrow says, you know what, I want out because I'm not going to watch the Chiefs constantly do everything they can to build around Patrick Mahomes, the Eagles in the NFC, even the Bills, like they've had better rosters and management. So the Ravens with Lamar certainly. So this is something to monitor over the next 24 months, I would say. If Cincinnati continues to come up short and Burrow's playing at an MVP level, I don't think he's going to waste his career in Cincinnati if they don't start to turn the corner back to where they were a couple years ago. Okay, let's shift from one-star quarterback to another. That, of course, is Matthew Stafford. His wife, Kelly, who has a podcast and can be outspoken, gave her thoughts on Matt's situation and obviously the idea that LA is shopping Cooper Kupp. Here's what Kelly had to say. "My husband wants to win. Trading away a Cooper Kupp? I'm confused because we are one play away from going to the NFC Championship. I have to be the dog in the situation. I want the respect for him that he deserves. I love the city of LA. With that being said, I love an adventure," almost indicating, we could try something else. A lot of thoughts here. One, we've outlined it. Cooper Kupp at a $30 million cap hit. Like, that's not the Rams not trying to win. In fact, I would argue it is them trying to win. It's saying, hey, if he won't take a pay cut, we can get other players by moving him and freeing up half that money that can contribute. So that's number one. I'm sure Stafford would love to have his buddy Kupp back. He trusts him, all that stuff. But that's just nature of the NFL business. That's not like the Bengals being cheap. That's just roster management. Number two, I don't feel like the Rams have made a concrete decision on Stafford, and I do think they need to make one pretty soon. Like, if I'm Sean McVay and I'm working with Les Snead, I want a clear direction by free agency, because if they are going to trade Stafford, well, they got to decide how they want to build this roster. Are they bringing in a Sam Darnold in free agency? Are they signing a bridge guy and then going to draft a quarterback in the NFL draft? So I think they got a few weeks to figure this out, maybe a month. Before the start of free agency gets going here. We've outlined the cap situation. If they trade him, it doesn't really help them financially that much unless it was a post-June 1 trade, but I don't think that would be the case. I think bringing him back for one more year makes the most sense, but, maybe he decides that if Kupp's gone, he would want out. I don't think Stafford would ask for a trade, but, if they're not on the same page, maybe the Rams will just say, you know what, we had a nice run, you're getting older, we'll ship you out somewhere else and we'll reset here. Okay, if you had to predict it, where will Stafford be in 2025? Type LAR for the Rams, or if it's another team, predict below. If you think there's another team like the Giants or someone like that could trade for him, let us know who that is. I still think it'll be the Rams based on the money, based on how he's still playing, but I do think in 2026 he'll either retire or be on a new team. Okay, let's talk about Myles Garrett. He was at Radio Row as well, as was Aidan Hutchinson and Jared Goff. Goff being an MVP finalist. He was hanging out last night. You see the three of them there, Hutchinson, Goff, and Garrett chopping it up. And, it sparked the classic internet rumors. Oh, is Garrett going to, go to Detroit? Are they going to be in on the sweepstakes? I did talk about this when the trade request first came in, that Detroit could just go all in and just go for broke in 2025 and worry about later, because a lot of their big contracts like Goff, Sewell, and other guys that are going to have to pay Hutchinson, obviously, those deals kick in 2026. Now, when you get there, you can restructure and kick money even further down the road. But they could trade for Garrett, bring him on board for 2025, and even if you have to extend him, like I said, just worry about the money later down the road and just say, you know what, we are going completely all in for 2025. If we have to cut guys down the road, we have to cut guys. But if you're the Lions, you have a pretty sour taste in your mouth, because last year you had the best offense in the NFC, and you just got snake bit by injuries, and Jared Goff had a bad playoff game, and like that, your season was over. So, and now you've lost all these coaches. It's like, do you want to just kind of stay the course, or do you feel like you need to go make a splash? Because I could see them thinking, hey, let's go get another winning piece to this situation, because there could be some early pains with this new coaching staff. These are some teams I had mentioned that I think could make sense for Myles Garrett. I think the Commanders are one. You always, when you feel good about a quarterback on a rookie contract, that's when you make deals like this to build around him with other big contracts before you have to pay that quarterback. The Lions, like I said, they have big contracts, but they're not kicking in yet. They could just go for broke this year. Buffalo would be trickier. Their financial status isn't great, but they could backload a deal if they wanted to, and they might feel like they're one piece away from getting over the hump in the AFC. The Bears, kind of like the Commanders, they have money. They probably think they have the guy in Caleb Williams. Obviously, he didn't play as well as Jaden Daniels, but they also have major offensive line issues. Would they potentially risk sacrificing some of that for Garrett? I'm not sure. I think they would be interested maybe after free agency and closer to the draft if they've addressed some offensive line issues. And then New England, only because they have a ton of cap space and they're devoid of talent. Like, if they were willing to give the Browns just a bigger offer in terms of trade compensation and offer Garrett just a nuclear contract, maybe that would be a situation where both Cleveland and Garrett would sign off on. Now, obviously, the Browns have come out and said, we're not trading him. We have no interest. That's a non-starter. I've explained why I think they should trade him. I think it's a great opportunity to hit the reset button, because as long as Deshaun Watson's contract is on their books, it's an anchor. Now, obviously, you could say, well, look at Denver. They took on Russell Wilson's dead cap, and they drafted Bo Nix. It's like, okay, if the Browns think that Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward can come in and hit the ground running, sure, but Bo Nix also had Sean Payton. I like Kevin Stefanski, but is Cam Ward just going to light the league on fire from day one? Is Shedeur Sanders going to do that? Is Dion going to let Shedeur go to Cleveland? I could see the Browns saying, hey, let's trade him for 1 or 2 picks this year, 1 or 2 picks next year. Let's reload the roster this year, start that process of getting Deshaun Watson off our books, and then in 2026 we're going to draft a quarterback. So I would trade them because they're not close to competing, and to me that's when you trade a superstar player to get more assets for the future for when you will be in a window to contend. If Garrett was 25, I'd feel differently, but he's 29. I think they should trade him. Myles Garrett will play for blank in 2025. What team's he going to be on next year? You think it's the Commanders, the Bears, the Lions? I think NFC makes a lot of sense unless it's just a team like the Patriots who are super far away and could offer you a lot. We'll see what that ends up being. I don't think it'll be the Browns. I do think he will eventually end up getting traded. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of 4 Verts. More coverage to come. Obviously, we're 2 days away from Super Bowl 59 between the Chiefs and the Eagles. I don't know if we'll have a last-minute preview for that. We'll for sure have a post-game reaction to put a wrap on the Super Bowl and, of course, the 2024 season. And then it'll be full off-season mode here on 4 Verts. So be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.